There are whispers of a world beyond this one, a place where the lines between reality and the impossible blur, where the unexplained is not so easily dismissed. Spirits of the dead, visitors from the stars, creatures of legend, and every other kind of extraordinary phenomena you can imagine. Each story is a gateway, a glimpse into the unknown. So take a step into the shadows with us as we journey to the other side. The Fresno Nightcrawlers. If you're out for a nighttime stroll in Fresno, California, you might find yourself in some very strange company. In 2007, a home security camera captured footage of an unusual figure walking across a front lawn. It came to be known as the Fresno Nightcrawler. The figure, estimated to be about 4 feet tall, appeared to be almost just a head and 2 extremely long white legs. No arms or any substantial upper body were visible. It's a very strange anatomy, one that doesn't seem to fit any known creature on Earth. This wasn't just a one-time event. In 2011, another sighting of the Fresno Nightcrawler occurred, this time captured on a trail camera in Yosemite National Park. These creatures appeared slightly different, standing taller at around 7 feet, and seemed to move more quickly than the one observed in 2007. This sighting only deepened the mystery. Was this a different entity, or had the Nightcrawlers somehow grown? The fact that they appeared in a national park, quite a good distance from the first sighting, suggested that these creatures might be more widespread than initially thought. Sightings of these bizarre creatures have been reported as far back as the early 1990s, and they haven't been limited to just California. Similar entities have also been spotted in Ohio, where they're often referred to as the Nightwalkers, and even as far away as Poland. These sightings have led to speculation that the Nightcrawlers might not be a singular phenomenon, but rather part of a global mystery. Some believe that these creatures have always been among us, hidden away, only now revealing themselves due to the increased presence of cameras and surveillance. Some speculate they may be connected to ancient Native American legends, with figures that resemble these beings in old carvings, possibly as protectors of the lands they occupy. The carvings, which depict similar long-legged figures, suggest these creatures might have been around for centuries. Despite multiple sightings, no clear explanation has been found regarding their origin or nature. The Fresno Nightcrawlers remain a mystery. Bloody Mary. Do you remember Bloody Mary? You and your friends would grab a flashlight, turn off the lights, and say her name 3 times into the mirror. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. And then she'd come for you. But where does this game come from? Who is Bloody Mary? Originally, this ritual was meant to show a woman what her future husband would look like. She would light a candle, grab a mirror, and walk up a staircase backwards. When she looked into the mirror, her future love would appear behind her in the reflection. However, there was a chance that a skull would appear instead, meaning that she would die before marriage. It was a test of fate, a glimpse into the future, but with a dark twist. Over time, this evolved into the modern game, where Bloody Mary is summoned not for love, but for fear. As far as who Bloody Mary actually is, that's up for debate. It could be Queen Mary I of England. She had 300 people deemed heretics and burned at the stake, earning her the nickname Bloody Mary as a result. Or it could be Elizabeth Bathory, a 17th century countess who tortured and murdered over 600 women so she could literally bathe in their blood. It could also be Mary Worth, an elderly hermit accused of being a witch. Allegedly, several town girls went missing while Mary's appearance became impossibly youthful and vibrant at the same exact time. She was burned at the stake. You're standing alone in the dark, staring into a mirror, and inviting something from beyond to come say hello. Your mind can play tricks on you, maybe even making you believe you see something that isn't there. Or maybe it is there. We may never know who Bloody Mary actually is, but we can be sure she'll remain a staple of sleepover scares for quite some time. the Black Knight satellite. In 1954, the U.S. Air Force allegedly detected an unexplained object circling the planet. They were puzzled. No country on Earth had the ability to launch anything of the sort at that time. According to some, the Black Knight satellite had been found. Its strange dark metallic body hinted at an intelligent design. But what was it doing here? Who or what sent it? The mystery deepens when we look back even further. In 1899, the famed inventor Nikola Tesla claimed to have received strange rhythmic signals from space while experimenting with early radio technology. Though dismissed by many at the time, some later speculated that these signals could be linked to the Black Knight. This was followed by reports in the 1920s from ham radio operators around the world who also picked up similar inexplicable signals. Analysis of the mysterious signals allegedly originating from the Black Knight suggests they may date as far back as 13,000 years. Theories of its purpose range from an ancient alien probe monitoring our planet to a desperate SOS from a civilization far beyond our galaxy. If true, the Black Knight could represent a bridge between us and a lost, or perhaps still existing, extraterrestrial race. In 1960, reports surfaced of a dark object detected just beyond our atmosphere, further fueling the belief in the Black Knight satellite's presence in Earth's orbit. Despite the International Space Station capturing images of what many believed to be the Black Knight in 2016, NASA and the US military continue to deny its existence. If the Black Knight is real, its implications are staggering. It means there's something out there that's been watching us for thousands of years. Maybe it's been sending signals back to wherever it came from, and we're just too late to figure it out. Or maybe it's here to warn us about something. Whatever it is, it's been out there in the dark, and we might not be alone in that darkness. Could it be that the Black Knight is more than just a relic? Perhaps a sentinel left to watch over us, or even a beacon waiting to be reactivated. So what if one day it does start transmitting again? What if we finally pick up the message, and it's something we weren't ready to hear? The Dyatlov Pass Incident. In the winter of 1959, 9 experienced hikers trekked into the Ural Mountains and were never seen alive again. What began as a challenging adventure for these seasoned hikers quickly turned into the most baffling tragedies in modern history. It came to be known as the Dyatlov Pass Incident, named after the expedition's leader, Igor Dyatlov. Their final campsite was found almost a month after their expected return, with all their supplies and shoes still there. The tent had been torn open from the inside, as if they were panicking to get out. The search party discovered footprints leading in all different directions, which led to the bodies of the hikers. It was a shocking sight and only brought more questions. Why would experienced hikers, who knew the dangers of the wilderness, abandon their shelter without proper clothing in sub-zero temperatures? Some of the bodies were found as far away as 2,000 feet from the campsite. Many of them were undressed, which some explain as paradoxical undressing, a phenomenon linked to hypothermia. But the strangeness doesn't end there. The ones that were dressed had clothing that contained radiation traces. Many of them had physical injuries too severe to be caused by each other. 2 of the bodies had major chest trauma. 1 had a fatal skull fracture, and disturbingly, some were found with their eyes and tongue removed. It was clear this was more than just hypothermia. Around the same time, other hikers and locals reported seeing strange orange lights in the sky, adding fuel to the theories of UFOs or secret Soviet weapon testing. These lights were seen by multiple witnesses across the region, leading some to believe they were somehow connected to the hikers' mysterious deaths. Multiple investigations have been conducted over the years, with theories ranging from avalanches to paranoia, severe winds, the Yeti, and even KGB cover-ups. The list goes on, but nothing conclusive. The psychological toll on the families of the victims, who have spent decades seeking answers, adds another layer of tragedy to the story. The Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of the most chilling and unresolved mysteries of the 20th century, and we may never know what really happened. the Phoenix Lights. On March 13, 1997, hundreds of people across Arizona and Nevada looked up and saw something strange in the night sky. They saw the Phoenix Lights. The phenomenon began with a massive V-shaped object silently gliding across the sky. The wingspan of the craft was estimated to be a massive 1,500 feet. That's the length of 5 football fields. For comparison, the wingspan of a Boeing 747, one of the largest commercial airplanes, is only 211 square feet. This was no ordinary aircraft, and the sheer size of the object left witnesses in awe and disbelief. Among the witnesses were people from all walks of life: police officers, commercial pilots, and even Arizona's then governor, Fife Symington. The object hovered in the sky for all to see for an astonishing 3 hours. Then, the lights slowly faded out, one by one. In the morning, it was gone. Despite the fact that so many people had witnessed the event, it initially received little media attention. However, as more people came forward, the story began to spread. It quickly gained traction, becoming one of the most talked about UFO sightings in history. The US military eventually claimed that the lights were flares from a training exercise at the Barry Goldwater Range. But this explanation left many unconvinced. The idea that flares could maintain a precise V formation over such a vast distance and for such a long duration without making any sound was met with skepticism by both experts and the public alike. Governor Symington held a press conference shortly after the event, during which he jokingly brought out a staff member dressed as an alien. He said he did this to calm the public. However, years later, Symington would admit that he himself had seen the Phoenix Lights and believed they were otherworldly. Since then, Phoenix has become a hotspot for UFO hunters, and they weren't disappointed either. The Phoenix Lights did return in 2007 and 2008, appearing just as mysteriously as they did in 1997 and disappearing without a trace. Who knows when they'll visit again? The hands resist him. In February 2000, a strange painting was sent to auction. The piece is titled, "The Hands Resist Him." The owner claims it is cursed. The painting was inspired by an old photograph taken of the artist as a child, standing in front of a glass door with a neighbor girl. But this is no ordinary painting. The boy's expression is hauntingly fixated on you, and the doll next to him appears lifeless with vacant black eyes. Disembodied hands press against the glass behind them, as if trying to break through. According to the artist, the hands symbolize alternate lives or realities. The more you look at it, the more unsettling it becomes, as if the painting itself is staring back at you. It is said that the characters in the painting move during the night, sometimes even coming out of the painting into our world. There are stories of people hearing faint whispers and seeing shadows move in the corner of their eyes after having the painting in their home. The seller warned that they were not liable for anything that happened to the new owner after purchase. Once the unsettling story spread, many people came forward claiming that merely looking at the painting filled them with unexplainable dread or made them physically ill. An art gallery purchased The Hands Resist Him for $1,025, and the mysterious seller sent it on its way. Allegedly, both the owner of the gallery and an art critic who reviewed the piece died within 1 year of becoming involved with the painting. The artist, Bill Stoneham, was later commissioned to paint 4 more works in the series. The Hands Invent Him, set before the first painting. Resistance at the Threshold, taking place 40 years later. Threshold of Revelation, also set 40 years later. And finally, What Remains, marking the end of The Boy and the Doll's Tale. Each of these works is filled with the same eerie atmosphere, continuing the unsettling narrative that began with the first painting. Are they really staring back at us? Or are we safe now that we know how their story ends? The dancing plague of 1518. Have you ever danced all night? What about dancing until you're dead? In the 1500s, it happened to hundreds of people. In July 1518, a woman named Frau Troffea began feverishly dancing in the streets of Strasbourg, France. She danced day and night until she finally collapsed from exhaustion. When she woke up, she went right back to dancing. She said she couldn't stop. What began as a strange, isolated incident quickly grew into a full-blown crisis. Strasbourg was no stranger to suffering. This was a hard time for the city. Famine, disease, and despair were rampant. The air was thick with the smell of disease and decay, and the people were already on edge. So you'd expect dancing to be the last thing anyone wanted to do. But within a week, 30 people had joined in dancing with Frau. It wasn't long before the dancing plague spread like wildfire, infecting more and more people every day. The city authorities thought the best cure was to simply let the dancers exhaust themselves. They even hired musicians and cleared public spaces for them to dance. But this only made things worse. The music seemed to fuel the frenzy, as if the very sound of it was compelling these poor souls to keep moving beyond what their bodies were physically capable of. The sight was a horror to behold. Eyes glazed over, bodies moving like they were controlled by something unseen. It was like watching puppets on strings, except these were real people. After a month, 400 people were consumed by what came to be known as the dancing plague of 1518. As many as 15 people died from heart attacks, strokes, or sheer exhaustion each day. When the townsfolk saw their neighbors, their friends, their family members dancing themselves to death, they demanded that the city officials take action. In desperation, the afflicted were taken to a mountaintop shrine to pray to Saint Vitus, the patron saint of dancers, hoping for a divine cure. Some say it worked. By September, the plague had mysteriously vanished as suddenly as it began. While this is the most famous case, similar dancing plagues also broke out in 1237 and 1374. Theories of its cause include ergot poisoning, a hallucinogenic mold found in bread, mass hysteria, and even demonic possession. Some believe it was just a form of collective madness brought on by the extreme stress and fear of the time. However, we still don't know what caused people to dance themselves to death in 1518. The Bleeding House on Fountain Drive. In 1987, Minnie Winston stepped into a pool of thick, dark blood in her bathroom. It wasn't hers, and it wasn't her husband William's either. In fact, it wasn't anyone's blood. As the shock wore off, the Winstons made a horrifying discovery. The blood was seeping up from the floors, walls, and even the ceiling in 5 rooms of their home, including the basement. The 2 elderly residents of Atlanta had lived in their home on Fountain Drive for decades and had never experienced anything like this. Fearful and confused, the couple called the police, and their home was immediately declared a crime scene. Some officers were skeptical when they arrived, suspecting a hoax or maybe an attempt to cover up a crime, but their doubts faded as the investigation went on. The blood was everywhere, and the authorities started taking the situation very seriously. The Bleeding House on Fountain Drive, as it came to be known, was thoroughly examined, but the source of the blood could not be found. A sample was analyzed by the state crime lab and confirmed to be human type O blood, a type that did not match Minnie or William. The discovery only deepened the mystery as the question remained: whose blood was it? And how was it seeping through the walls of their home? News of the bizarre occurrence spread quickly, causing fear, curiosity, and rampant speculation among the neighbors and throughout Atlanta. Despite the thorough investigation, police came up with nothing. The media caught wind of the story, turning the Winston home into a local legend almost overnight. But with little progress on the case, the fanfare died down over time. The house never bled again, leaving the Winstons and everyone else without answers. Can you imagine trying to sleep in that house? Every creak, every shadow would feel like the horror is about to return. How could Minnie and William ever feel safe in their home again? The psychological toll on them must have been immense. Always on edge, waiting for the walls to start bleeding again. Or worse. And then there's that silence after it stopped, like the house was holding its breath, waiting to see if it was really over. In the end, the blood was real, but its origin and cause remain unexplained to this day. If you had a good time exploring the other side with us, please like and subscribe.